My name is Susan Bishop, and I'm the chair of CPA Canada's SR&ED Tax Committee. I'm also a member of CPA Canada's Tax Advisory Group. I have the pleasure of leading Ernst & Young's National SR&ED Tax and other business incentives team, as well as a member of our EY's Global R&D leadership team. I've been full-time in this area of tax now since 1992, and I'm an FCPA FCA. In case you're not familiar with CPA Canada's SR&ED Tax Committee, it was formed back in 2014 and is comprised of experienced practitioners from right across the country. We work with CRA on identifying and discussing potential issues, as well as making recommendations for improvements to the program on behalf of CPAs. It's my pleasure to be joined by Lorraine Redekop today, the Director General of the SR&ED Program. Lorraine joined the SR&ED Directorate in July of 2021 and leads the SR&ED Program Administration, which is responsible for the federal government's largest funding program for business R&D in Canada. The SR&ED Directorate also is in charge of the Film and Media Tax Credit Administration. Thanks for joining us today, Lorraine.
Thank you so much for having me, Susan.
My pleasure. So we're going to start off with a presentation, a program update that Lorraine previously recorded for us. And why don't we go to that now?
Hello, I'm very happy to be here for this year's CPA Canada webinar. At the Canada Revenue Agency, our ambition for the SR&ED program is that it takes its place amongst the various Government of Canada economic measures in the innovation landscape. And this means that the program continues to be more visible and more accessible to Canadian innovators. So today I'd like to provide you with an overview of our program results, an update on our transformation, and a window into our future priorities. SR&ED continues to be a vital part of how the government is achieving its economic objective of promoting innovation in Canada. SR&ED is the largest Government of Canada program supporting research and development in Canada, with 80% of federal R&D support being delivered in the form of tax incentives. We update this number every year, and on average, the program provides more than $3.4 billion in tax incentives to over 17,000 claimants annually through 20,000 claims. Approximately 2,500 of these claims are coming from first-time claimants every year, and over 60% of the claims are coming from small businesses. In the 2022-2023 fiscal year, SR&ED provided $3.6 billion in tax incentives, which was an increase from the previous fiscal year. As you can see, the number of claims that we processed has remained relatively stable over the last 3 years, with the COVID year being a bit of an anomaly. One of the things we've done to promote program excellence in SR&ED is to gather and produce a set of program data on an annual basis, beginning last year. In addition to promoting transparency in the program, this data helps us to have a better understanding of SR&ED claimants. And so now I'm going to walk through the latest iteration of this data for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. In 22-23, the majority of SR&ED claims came from the software development sector, where we provided more than $1.2 billion in credits, followed by the electrical and mechanical engineering sectors. Similar to the previous fiscal year, SR&ED remained one of the main funding sources for medical R&D in Canada. Most of the claims came from projects involving experimental development, and more refundable claims were allowed versus non-refundable claims. Over the same period, the majority of claims came from Canadian-controlled private corporations. Small businesses with a gross annual income of less than $4 million accounted for 64% of the claims submitted. Small businesses also remain the largest single proportion of ITC allowed based on gross income. So one challenge in this program is to manage anecdotal feedback and how it can influence perceptions of SR&ED. Presenting data about our service standards helps claimants to situate their own experience within that of the broader claim population. Every year, our program accepts about 90% of claims as filed and reviews around 2,300 claims based on a risk of potential noncompliance. So this works out to about 12% of claims being reviewed every year. Around 7% of claims are accepted after modifications, and around 3% are deemed ineligible for SR&ED tax incentives. On this slide, we noticed a slight trend towards acceptance of claims and decrease in adjustments in the program. This slide shows the overall ITC amounts that have been adjusted over the past several years and generally shows a downward trend in adjustments. Mirroring previous years, most SR&ED claims in 22-23 continue to come from Ontario, with just over 8,800 claims received, followed by the Western provinces, Quebec, and the Atlantic provinces. I'm now going to talk for a minute about our service standards. SR&ED's objective is to process claims accepted as filed within 60 days and to meet this standard at least 90% of the time. In the last fiscal year, 94% of SR&ED claims accepted as filed were processed within 60 days. For those refundable claims that are undergoing a review, our goal is to process them within 180 days. And in the last fiscal year, we met this standard 95% of the time. So given that 90% of claims are accepted as filed, the vast majority of claims are processed within that 60-day window. Over the past few years, we've conducted consultations, and we've received a lot of meaningful feedback from claimants and stakeholders, including the tax professionals community, on how we can improve the SR&ED program. To address this feedback, we've embarked on a very ambitious transformation to make the program more service-oriented, while also maintaining a strong focus on integrity. We focused our efforts on developing clearer eligibility guidance, enhancing our digital content and tools, improving the claim review process, and addressing willful noncompliance. So I'm going to take a moment to elaborate on our efforts in these areas on the next few slides. One of the first steps we took to transform the program was simplifying our eligibility of work guidelines to make it easier for businesses to determine whether the work that they were doing could qualify for SR&ED tax incentives. The simplified guidelines provide a comprehensive explanation of the definition of SR&ED in the Income Tax Act by focusing on the how and the why requirements. We're still assessing the impact of this change. It's going to take us a few cycles to see whether there are trends. And when we do have more insight on how increasing understanding about eligibility is impacting the claims that we're seeing, we'll be sure to share these results publicly. We've also worked very hard to make SR&ED more service-focused by improving our web content on Canada.ca, including our tools and services, to create an experience that's seamless, accessible, and user-friendly. In 2022, we launched the first phase of our digital content redesign to better serve Canadian businesses. In 2023, we launched the second phase of this redesign, which focused on making the content more user-friendly and written in plain language. We focused on providing more straightforward information on eligibility, compliance obligations, the claim process, and also qualifying expenditures. Looking ahead, we're planning to review technical web pages for maximum findability, while also making sure that the content is accessible and, again, written in plain language. We will also be updating our SR&ED review guide for claimants. We will be improving the guide of plain language while also making it more service-oriented and user-friendly. Our goal is to make the document easier for claimants to understand and navigate. It will include both the technical and financial aspects of the SR&ED review to ensure that all information about the process is readily available in one document. At the same time, we're going to be bringing our internal claim review manual up to date to ensure that employees in our program are communicating with claimants in a simple, plain language format that's accessible for businesses. In 2022, we launched our updated self-assessment and learning tool, also referred to as SALT, to help businesses better understand their eligibility and predict their potential claim amounts. In the past year, we've seen a monthly average of around 259 self-assessments completed all the way up to the eligibility summary page at SALT. 91% of individuals who begin the eligibility section reach the summary page, which tells us that the tool is working as it's intended. One of the things that I really like about SALT is that it can be used in a variety of ways, including as a prospective tool that can help businesses to understand what they could claim if they proceed with the project that they're considering. We're going to be integrating SALT into the client portal that we're currently developing within my business account at CRA. This is a major digital project that we hope to deliver in the next year or so. Improving the consistency and the timeliness of the claim review process has been top of mind in our program for a number of years. Through the new national workload system, we now assign reviews and services nationally based on the availability of SR&ED specialists with the right experience and the right skill set. This national system has allowed us to modernize our practices, adapt to a digital environment, and make more efficient use of our resources. It's helping us to have better program oversight so that we can provide a more consistent client experience across Canada. Since April 1st, 2023, 68% of claims are now processed by employees who work in a different region than where a claim was originally received. We allow a maximum 3-hour time zone difference between the region where a claim is received and the region where it is reviewed. Through the national workload system, from April to October 2023, we have assigned more than 1,000 claims for review and more than 800 services, which include the SR&ED service visit and the first-time claimant advisory service. This is one initiative in particular where we would especially appreciate your feedback. We'd like to know how this new system has been working for you and your clients so that we can continue to make improvements to the claimant experience. In recent years, the SR&ED program has seen an increase in claims containing false and non-compliant information. Ensuring the integrity and the fairness of our program remains a top priority here at CRA. So we're focusing on improving our business intelligence tools to better target compliance interventions towards the higher risk claims, and that will also help us to process lower risk claims faster. We've been issuing tax tips reminding businesses of the importance of providing valid information, while placing emphasis on the fact that any false information can lead to serious consequences, including the application of penalties. By expanding our available outreach and educational opportunities for the program, we're increasing businesses' understanding of eligibility, the supporting documentation requirements, and the expectations that we have throughout the claims process. We really want to raise awareness within the tax professionals community, and we ask for your support as well to help us to promote compliance. The SR&ED program has compiled and analyzed various issues that can arise during the course of the claims process, and we continue to track common issues. So I'm going to just touch on a few of them here now. The first one is incomplete or incorrectly completed forms. So we're seeing various sections that are omitted during filing, such as Schedule 508 and Form 566. Second one is lack of supporting documentation. So we're not always receiving supporting documentation for claims when we request it, and this can lead to extended processing delays. Sometimes claims are also estimated with no rationale or supporting documentation. We also see ineligible expenses that are claimed. So this can include salaries and wages provided in estimates, ineligible salaries that are claimed, management salaries being claimed as opposed to core technical people, or at times non-SR&ED work, such as business innovation and market improvement, being claimed as SR&ED. Another issue can be lack of focus on technological advancement. So project descriptions sometimes do not reflect the true nature of the work that is being performed. Claimants often don't provide a sufficient description of the scientific or technological issue that they're trying to overcome, and they focus instead on the benefits of the project. So it's important in these particular kinds of situations that we have the opportunity to speak directly with those conducting the work, as this can help to clarify any questions that we have. Finally, other financial assistance is not always disclosed. So government assistance is routinely reported or underreported, and this adds to audit time on review files and sometimes can result in overpayments. Tax professionals are involved in most of the SR&ED claims that we receive. We're looking to you to assist your clients throughout the application process and to help make sure that they have the information that's required to support their claims. So this coming year, we've set 5 strategic priorities for the program. First, we're going to target outreach and services to the next generation of innovators who are less aware of SR&EDs and our program. We're also looking to increase SR&ED's visibility in the innovation field by attending more events. And we continue to work in collaboration with the Department of Finance on the SR&ED review that was announced in Budget 2022 and Budget 2023. We're going to continue to, with our efforts to strengthen integrity and address willful noncompliance, using improved business intelligence tools to better target our compliance interventions towards complex and high-risk claims, so we can process the less complex and lower-risk claims faster. And this really speaks to program excellence. We want to ensure that we're focusing our review resources on the most complex issues, allowing eligible claimants to receive their credits quickly. We're also going to improve operational efficiency by continuing to review our processes and our services and our training for employees. And in particular, we're going to take the time to gather insights from the major changes that we have implemented, particularly the national workload system, really to analyze how best to administer the program in the coming years. And by working through these priorities, we hope to reach more Canadian businesses and to help them to get really the most that they can from the SR&ED program. There's no question of SR&ED's importance in Canada's innovation landscape. Our objective at the CRA is to administer the program in the most effective way possible so that the program meets its economic and its policy objectives. We've undertaken major changes in the program over the last few years, which represent a very different experience for businesses and for tax practitioners. Your feedback is extremely valuable to us as we continue along this journey. And so I would invite you to send your questions and your feedback to our communications mailbox, which is shown on this slide. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine. That was a great update presentation. I think a lot of really useful information for everyone.
You're very welcome.
So now we'll move into the questions.
Sure, sounds good.
So we've got some questions about the administration of the program, some questions about the proposed new economy ITCs that I understand will be administered by your program, as well as the recently announced SRED Consultation. Perfect. Let's get started with the questions. First of all, in your presentation, you talked about the statistics that the vast majority of claims are actually processed within 60 days.
Yes.
But for those taxpayers or claimants that have not been processed within the 60 days, the current process, as I understand it, is that they receive letters that they may be reviewed in 60 days. In the past, there were Certitude letters, where I think it reduced the uncertainty for taxpayers that, whether or not they were going to be reviewed. Is there a chance to bring those back?
Yeah, thank you. One of the things that we hear most often in terms of feedback that we get on the SR&ED program is that businesses are looking for certainty. And a lot of the steps that we've taken over the last few years have been around trying to provide more and more certainty for businesses. So this is something we can definitely take back and look at. And it's, as we continue to make improvements in the program, we can consider whether we could reintroduce those Certitude letters. I would just add as well, Susan, any business that is questioning what the status of their file is always welcome to call our inquiries line. Those numbers are on our SR&ED program pages on Canada.ca. So they can call us and they can just check in directly with one of the staff in the SR&ED program to check on the status of their claim.
Okay, great. That's really helpful because I know, like you said, the predictability of what's going to happen does make a big difference to claimants. Secondly, we understand that you moved to the National Workforce Management policy back a few years ago now, and I know you spoke about it a bit in the presentation. Just wondering if you can expand on it, like more around the why you went to that process.
Yeah, we're really excited about the national workload system. We had been working on it for about 2 or 3 years and introduced it more generally into the program in February 2023, was where we sort of onboarded most of the SR&ED reviews into that program or that system. We made that change in response to feedback that we had received over many years. There were concerns that we were hearing around, specifically around whether we had the right kind of technical expertise in the program associated with the right SR&ED files. And what I mean by that is that because previously we had used a regional model, we couldn't always guarantee that we had a project reviewer, a technical reviewer who had the best expertise to look at a project file that was under consideration. And because we were just working sort of in a geographical manner. So what the national workload system allowed us to do was to look at all of the resources that we have across the country from a technical perspective, and then ensure that the most appropriate technical reviewer could be assigned to the project file at hand. that was the main imperative. There was a similar imperative on the financial side as well. We wanted to make sure that our audit staff, with greater expertise and experience, could look at the more complex files. And again, the geographical model didn't allow us to do that as much. And so the national model, going to a nationalized model, has allowed us to better align the complex files with our financial expertise that we have in the program.
So that's really similar to the firms in the way that I think at least our team has always worked and assigned team members to the appropriate clients. How has it been received by the field staff?
Well, I mean, it was a massive change, but I think everybody generally understood the reasoning behind it. We invested greatly in change management and training and onboarding of field staff, and we took our time and onboarded it over the course of many, many months. And I think now people are seeing the benefits of that. And one of the really nice things is a byproduct of this change is that field staff who have worked in the program for many, many years are now having an opportunity to collaborate more broadly across the country. So they've so especially the very specialized technical field staff who may not have known or ever had the chance to work with their counterparts in other parts of the country are building those relationships internally, which is really, really nice to see. So we're very excited about this change in the program.
It's great. And I guess it might be advantageous from a consistency perspective too, in that they're not just seeing the claims within their region, they're getting to see claims across the country.
Exactly, yeah. It's helping to expose areas where we might have had regional differences just over the course of time. It's a program that's been in place for many, many years. And that's just natural that over the course of time, as much as we have policies and procedures, every region is a little bit different and regional particularities can emerge. And so this has allowed us to see areas where we can have better consistency. Really what we're looking for is that consistent claim experience across the country. Somebody who's filing a claim in Vancouver should have a similar experience as much as possible as someone filing a claim in Toronto. So that's what we're looking to achieve through this national workload system.
It's good to hear. What about for claimants where they've built a relationship with their CRA reviewers, both on the science side as well as the financial side over the years, where the reviewers might be familiar with their processes and their projects? Any thought given to consistency of assigning the same people to the files year after year?
In the smaller files, less so, I'll be honest. I think we're looking much more at the expertise at hand. And now that's not to say that reviewers wouldn't speak behind the scenes. Certainly a reviewer who's very, very familiar with a specific claimant and has seen that claimants from that particular claimant for many years, may have a conversation with their colleague, and I spoke about that just a moment ago. So that I would say that's something we would consider more informally and certainly and encourage actually informally. We want to have that knowledge transfer and that learning in the program. Where we might consider something more formal along those lines are on the really large claims. We have a few of those in the program, fewer than in the small claims area. But those are claims that tend to be longer in processing. They might go year over year, and so that's something that we're looking at is how do we provide that continuity if we've had a small team looking at that very large claim and it's going to continue over a year or two. How would we continue to have that continuity? So that's an area that we're exploring.
Okay, great. Yeah, you would think that there would be value both for CRA as well as claimants where possible for those larger files for sure. What about for claimants that would like an in-person review? For sure some people believe that picture's worth 1,000 words. So depending on the sector and depending on the projects, I think there can be value both to CRA as well as claimants reducing time and understanding the projects better by some in-person reviews. Yeah. We're aware that some claimants have requested them and have been denied. Is there any flexibility around that going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, during COVID, we moved entirely to a virtual model, where prior to COVID, we had an in-person review was almost the default, if not the default. So this was a huge change for us as well in the program. I would say this is probably the greatest, the second greatest piece of feedback that I've heard since in my time is this question around getting back to on-site in-person reviews, along with the the feedback around predictability that I talked about earlier. So we have reintroduced on-site reviews. We did so earlier last year in 2023. I think in retrospect, we probably went a little bit too far in terms of emphasizing the virtual, and could have brought back more on-site reviews at the time that we reintroduced them. And that's actually something that we're now looking at very, very closely, is expanding the incidence of on-site reviews in response to this feedback. So you can expect to see more on-site reviews going forward. The question for us again is how to balance that with this approach of nationalization of the workload. So that's maybe what's held that up a little bit. But the other thing I would say as well is, in situations where a claimant really feels that an on-site review is going to give them the best opportunity to demonstrate and showcase the work that they've undertaken, I strongly encourage that claimant to speak to the reviewer and possibly even the manager. We have also given that direction to regional staff, that they should be very much open to that kind of feedback, and that we will support that as well. So by all means, request the on-site review. If that's the message I would send to claimants, is request one and advocate for that if claimants feel that would be most beneficial to the review process from their perspective.
Okay, no, thank you for that update. It's been a journey for all of us, obviously, since the pandemic, with between the virtual and the in-person. It's very understandable. Okay, on to the next question. The AI market is absolutely booming. What is CRA's position on claimants using Gen AI in preparing the SRED claims?
Well, we don't have really a formal position on that at this point. Of course, we're aware of Gen AI and its place in the environment out there. Really, what we're looking at when we look at claims is the veracity of the claim. And the extent to which the project description accurately outlines the work that's been done. So that continues to be our focus.
Okay. And what about from CRA's perspective? Are you using Gen AI tools at all in terms of risk analysis or the reviews?
Well, I can't speak really to the work that we do in terms of risk analysis and reviews, but I of course, one point that I would emphasize is that protecting the information that's given to us from claimants is always a top priority for us.
You spoke about common issues in the claims, and the majority of claimants get assistance from practitioners when putting claims together. Has there been any more thought given to creating an approved designation or license for practitioners, which lends comfort that the claims might be prepared more accurately?
Yeah, so that is something that we had looked at. At this point, we're not pursuing it. This idea of some kind of designation or formal accreditation for certain tax practitioners or claim preparers. We did study it. It would be quite labor-intensive and administratively complex, frankly, for us to try to put such a regime in place. And so what we've really focused on is promoting compliance through messaging directly to businesses, but also to tax practitioners around how to prepare compliant claims. We've got a lot of good information on our web pages around that. But also we've put out some information about characteristics of helpful and compliant tax practitioners, but also red flags to look for in claim preparers who may not have compliance in mind. So I would invite anyone to look at the material that we've put out on that in that regard, and that's sort of the vein that we've gone down at this point.
And what about for first-time claimants? I know you discussed some stats in the presentation. Yes. Is the FDcast program, or the First-Time Claim Advisory Service, is that available universally right now across the country?
So at one time we did offer the First-Time Claim Advisory Service more universally. We drew that back a little bit over the last few years, really in response to, we wanted to look afresh at whether it was really serving the claimants and the program to offer that universally. So we drew it back, and we have targeted those resources more around claims that would benefit from that service. And so the way that we're looking at it now is that certainly the service is continuing. There are a proportion of claims that will come in that will get an FDcast, or First-Time Claimant Advisory Service, and that's appropriate. And then claims that warrant, based on our risk assessment for the review, they'll be reviewed as per the regular process. And claims that don't warrant a review or a First-Time Claimant Advisory Service will simply be accepted through the system. So claims are being processed along normal channels, and we're just targeting that service towards the claimants that would most benefit from it.
Okay. No, thank you for the update. It was interesting to learn that your directorate will be administering the new clean economy investment tax credits once they are passed. Just wondering if there's any insight you can give us on what your plans are down the road. Like, for example, will the same science and financial reviewers be involved both reviewing SR&ED claims as well as the new clean economy ITCs?
So yes, should they be passed in Parliament, we would be administering those credits as well within this group. There would be no plan though that the same reviewers who are working on the SR&ED files would also work on the clean economy ITCs. That would be a separate workload, and we're looking at ways to have staff join the directorate, or what kinds of capacity building we would need to do in that case. But that is currently the discussion that's ongoing. And in terms of the credits themselves, we've got legislation before Parliament currently for 2 of the credits, and should they receive royal assent, we'll have more to say that.
It's exciting. I'm sure that'll give some nice, interesting career opportunities for some of the team that's been working in the SR&ED area for many years.
Yeah, that would be the hope. Yeah, there's a number of people within SR&ED who've have expertise in those areas, and they are certainly very interested to pursue those options if they become available.
That's great to hear. Has there been any updates or discussions around the coordination between the different funding programs for companies, sharing of information back and forth?
So one of the discussions that we have been having over the last couple of years is with our other government counterparts that also administer innovation measures, and we've worked closely around, for example, even just public outreach materials, better coordinating the kinds of information that we're providing to businesses around the various measures, and having sort of providing a whole of government presentation of the measures as opposed to individualized by Canada Revenue Agency or other departments. So that discussion's ongoing. We're starting to explore opportunities around how we might be able to share information behind the scenes that would lead to a more seamless experience for businesses, but those are very preliminary discussions right now, and it's certainly, there's an opportunity for coordination, and it's one that we'd like to pursue, and so it's on our radar to advance work in that area if we can.
Glad to hear that you're working on it. Now, if we turn to the SRED consultation that was recently, just on January 31st, just announced, the long-awaited consultation of the SRED program. Is there anything that you can share with us around the updates? I know the submission's not due until April 15th. CPA Canada is planning to put, a submission together on behalf of CPAs. But in general, any feedback or any updates you can share?
Well, we've been working very closely with our colleagues at the Department of Finance on this consultation for the last number of months. We're also very pleased to see that it's been launched now just a few days ago, and are looking forward to the feedback that we get through the consultation. One point to note, of course, is that the Department of Finance is characterizing it as a cost-neutral modernization. So I think from our perspective, we've worked for a number of years to really to improve the administration of this program. We've taken several steps. We've made tremendous changes internally within how we manage the program, but also externally, a number of steps that I spoke about in the presentation. So now we're very keen to see what kind of feedback we will get through these consultations around other areas where the program might be adjusted and changed, and how might it evolve over the course of time to better serve businesses that are conducting R&D. So we're excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you think about it, right, the government's been providing assistance to companies performing R&D in Canada since 1944. But I know the program as it is right now has been largely very similar for the last 35 years. I think it's great that the government is taking a look at it to see if there are opportunities to make it more effective on a cost-neutral basis, as you said. But honestly, the work that you and your team have also done to improve the administration of the program, and make it a more efficient and effective process for claimants has made a big difference, I think, as well. And I think we can all agree that, encouraging companies to do more R&D in Canada and keep the IP in Canada is essential to the future growth of our Canadian economy. Thank you for your time today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here.
And thank you for joining us today. We hope that you found this of value. And until the next time, thank you.